Welcome to the Rebel Health Coach Podcast with Tom Underwood. Armed with truth and knowledge, your journey to a healthy lifestyle can be obtained. Preventative wellness, quality nourishment, and daily fitness routines dramatically improve your outlook on life as a whole. And you'll find the support and info you need to accomplish a healthier lifestyle here. Together, we can empower each other along our journey to an amazing you.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you may be listening to this episode. Today, I am going to cover sugar addiction once again, because sugar addiction is an addiction like any other drug, like cocaine, opioids, etc., etc. They mess with our serotonin and dopamine levels, and we begin to crave it. And it's hard to break. Matter of fact, people go through withdrawals from sugar. I've decided that I want to cover this topic more in depth with Michael Collins. Michael Collins has been completely sugar-free for over 30 years. He is the chairman of the board of the Food Addiction Institute that helps raise awareness about processed foods and sugar worldwide. He is the founder of sugaraddiction.com, which has been helping thousands successfully quit sugar for over 9 years. Michael and his wife raised 2 children, sugar-free from the womb to 6 years of age. Michael has worked closely with others to help them regain lives ravaged by various substance use disorders. So thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoy this show. Today's episode is very important to me because sugar is the real gateway drug. Sugar is more addictive than cocaine and is a leading contributor to our nation's health crisis today. Michael Collins is my guest this afternoon, and he is the chairman of the board of the Food Addiction Institute that helps raise awareness about processed food and sugar worldwide, and is a founder of the sugaraddiction.com website, which has been helping thousands successfully quit sugar for over 9 years. Michael, welcome to the Rebel Health Coach Podcast, sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me, Tom. I really do. This is exciting stuff.
Well, sugar is the root cause of all evils, in my opinion. It's hidden in a lot of foods. There's over 75 different sugars, or probably more than that at this point. So let's get started by how did you get into this world of sugar addiction and sugars?
Yeah, it's I'll give you the short version, but I grew up. There's a great quote on Ed Bradley's interview and Eric Clapton for 60 Minutes, and he's talking about addiction. They're down at his treatment center in Antigua, and they're saying, "Hey, how did this all start, Eric? With heroin?" And he goes, "No, it started with sugar." And Ed goes, "Sugar?" So, yeah, it's just like I was a regular kid. We had unfettered access to the sugar bowl. If we didn't have half an inch of sugar on the, on the bottom with the milk after the Cheerios, we didn't put enough sugar on it. My mother didn't care. She was a sugar junkie. I think she died of the disease, to be honest with you. And I just grew up with it. And as Eric Clapton said, it changed my state. I ate it. I ate the same thing he ate, bread and butter with sugar on it. Can you imagine? It was.
I remember those sandwiches.
Okay. So we grew up about the same area, and we like the brown sugar too, but whatever. I got older and I just thought I was a kid. I didn't think anything of it. I never had a weight problem. I was kind of an athlete. So that was not a worry. But, I had my first beer at 13 or 14, and now I'm like, whoa, this is even better. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't run to the store with all my allowance money. I went to college and drank a lot of beer and smoked a lot of pot and stuff. And, I had a little trouble with alcohol and drugs, and I got sober at about 28, right? So here I am, trying to get off drugs and alcohol, and I'm finding all these folks, all my compadres and recoveries and stuff, they're all gaining weight and getting diabetes diagnosis and all that kind of stuff. And so I just, I started studying it. I studied it, and I read a book called Sugar Blues. And Sugar Blues is,
very good. It's a very good book.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you read it because it really tripped my trigger, I guess is the best way to say it. And for your folks, it's the guy's name is William Duffy. He's passed now, but he was at a party and he was putting 2 lumps of sugar in his coffee. And from behind him, a voice said, "I wouldn't have that in my house, let alone my body." And the voice was Gloria Swanson, the movie star, right? And so he turned around and there she was. And they started talking. They eventually got married, her 3rd or 4th husband. And he liked blues too, so he combined it. So I read that book in the early 80s. And I got married and stuff. And somehow, Tom, I talked my wife at the time into, when she got pregnant, before she got pregnant, to do it without flour or sugar or caffeine, right? So all my 2 boys were the twins are raised with no flour, no sugar. You know, I kind of put it on the shelf like a regular guy, made money, you know, had a career. But it was always in the back of my mind, you know, the sugar stuff. And people used to call me the weird addiction specialist around recovery and stuff, mostly because I've talked a lot about sugar and caffeine and stuff that most people drank pretty copiously. You know, they didn't really think about it. So, you know, come around about 8 or 9, 10 years ago, I got the domain and started coaching people on sugar and putting out little products to educate folks. And I've been doing it ever since. And I've kind of retired from my other stuff. And now this is what I do full time, pretty much. I have some other stuff, but, you know, I'm a sugar coach now and help folks do it. And we're trying to get it a little bit bigger. So that's the short version.
Okay, that's a good version. I read when I was preparing for this that you raised your children from birth to the age of 6 to be sugar-free. Right. That's incredible in itself.
Yeah, thanks.
How old are they now, and how do they treat sugar now?
That's a good question. I actually asked my son the other day. My boys are twins. They're 29 years old now, but they don't have a draw to it, and they didn't have a draw to it. And much to the chagrin of the parents, the school educators, literally the relatives, they did not feel deprived, and it didn't skew their world. They never had problems with alcohol or drugs. You know, Tom, all the science is coming out now. We didn't quite know it back then, but about 5 years back, the science really accelerated. And I just believe that the boys' dopamine and serotonin receptors were not as inundated as mine were as a kid. You know, this blasted with this product that manually pushes the serotonin, the dopamine mostly, but even serotonin. And so I think they grew up pretty normal. I mean, they never really, they were never really attracted to sugar. They never. They can take it or leave it now. They have a little bit. It's not an issue for them, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of functional studies have been coming out lately about the brain diagnostics and how the brain reacts to the exact same way sugar and cocaine reacts to the brain. And there's a well-known characteristics of addictive drugs is their ability to cause and repeated intermittent increases of dopamine, right, like you said. Yeah. So, you know, let's go into a little bit about I think of that commercial, and I've said this before about the egg, where you crack the egg in the frying pan. This is your brain on drugs.
Sure.
And so, I mean, sugar is a freaking drug.
It is. And when we cross that bridge, you get well. You know, and when you just accept it, here's the thing I believe, and Duffy writes about it quite a bit in the history. I really am an anthropologist of this stuff. You know, people say, Mike, why don't you become a doctor? I'm like, if I were to become a doctor, it would be a doctor of anthropology. You know what I mean? Because I want to know, how do we get ourselves in this mess? You know, 30, 40 years ago, the high fructose corn syrup really threw us for a real loop. But you know, the bottom line is that when you understand, just because it's sweet, just because it got enculturated over hundreds, maybe 1,000 years, does not mean it's not a drug. You know, right. It's still a drug, and it's low dose, and dose dependency is does its damage over time, right? And it does still affect your brain. It affects your emotions. It affects your feelings. It's literally an anesthetic. They use it to anesthetize babies before circumcision. It's an actual product called Sweeteners, and they don't use barbiturates or anything. They don't use pain relievers or opioids or anything. They use sugar, and they have that surgery with just a little bit of sugar, but that because it works, it does relieve pain. But we as adults don't feel that anymore. It's a great book that just came out, the woman's drug history and everything. It's like she says, we are now just staving off withdrawals. We're just getting back to normal with the sugar in our lives, And so when people cross the bridge that says in their mind they accept that it's a drug, then they change their relationship to it. So your point is well taken, very well taken.
It's interesting because there's a lot of things out there on sugar, but I want to dive into detoxes because there's a lot of detoxes on the market.
Yeah.
And detoxing from drugs is not easy. So detoxing from sugar is going to be equally the same, in my opinion. So let's talk about some of the detoxes out there. Do they work? Are they worth exploring, or are some of them just bogus junk?
That's a great question, my friend. I mean, look, in my mind, all of the detoxes are really sugar, flour, and caffeine withdrawals. In other words, the pain that you feel, even the keto flu that is pretty popular right now, the keto diet kind of thing. The keto flu, if you put the symptoms of each, sugar addiction withdrawals and sugar detox, next to the keto flu, they're identical. They're absolutely identical. And it truly is. I've worked with, like I said, thousands of people online and hundreds of people personally. And patterns develop, patterns of how, day one is, day two, day three. And what happens is always the same, There's anxiety, there's depression, there's lethargy, there's this feeling literally of impending doom. Because your dopamine now is not being pumped manually anymore. It is literally, they call it down-regulated. The receptors are down-regulated, and they're healing up. They're trying to come back online. And when you go through that, most people can't. They, like the woman said in the book, you can't live in withdrawals, and it takes a good solid 30 days physically, and then emotionally and mentally. Because you've worked and you've reached for this drug unconsciously to quell stress and anxiety and fear and worry and shame, unconsciously since you were a baby, it takes time to walk out of that. So the physical is real. It's not in your mind. And the emotional is even worse. I mean, not worse. I don't want to say worse because you can get through it. But it is a hard detox. It's a real hard detox. The other stuff where they do juices and stuff, look, Dr. Robert Lustig, who's probably the eminent researcher in this, has discovered that the fructose molecule is the offending molecule. Table sugar's half fructose, half glucose. And if you're down in juice fasts, all you're doing is blasting your liver with more fructose, and you're getting yourself in a worse situation. So, detoxes, like I said, I mean, they're all they are really, I believe, is flour, sugar, and caffeine withdrawals. Real. Okay. And anybody who's tried it and knows, anybody who's honest, right. It's what it is.
So how does one detox from sugar?
Slowly.
Okay.
And carefully. And basically, they've got to understand what's coming. And you mentioned that, I'm involved with the Food Addiction Institute. The founder, Phil, he's still alive. He said, this thing needs an inordinate amount of support. And what it means is that you've probably tried, and you've probably, as a healthy guy and a health coach and a health podcaster, you've probably brought this topic up, and people look at you like you're crazy. Like this is, everything in moderation, right?
Right.
some people biochemically cannot handle this drug in their system. It causes weight gain, diabetes, and all these kinds of things, right? And so they need to follow, like, they need to understand what's coming. They need to have a coach or a sponsor or a group of people who can walk them through, because they can't expect support at their family level or their work level. They just can't, because people haven't come that far. They're not experiencing the same thing the detoxer is experiencing. So what they end up doing is they end up going back, because detoxing and withdrawals are hard. And if you're isolated, it's just as easy to go with that tribe, the group that's still eating sugar, as it is to go with the tribe that's not. So you need to build yourself a tribe around you, a group around you, a support system around you. Because I was talking to Pete Evans, the magic pill guy, the other day, just yesterday, and he's like, anybody can detox. Anybody can change their diet like that. It's that changing your emotions, changing your group of people, changing society, or blending in society when you're a little bit different.
Right.
And that's what people fear. They don't want to be a little different.
That's the same way with alcohol, though.
Correct.
I mean, people are trying to stop alcohol. You almost have to change friends.
Correct. I agree 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and, you don't have to eliminate your family. I didn't, certainly, I tell people if I didn't have any people that drank or ate sugar, I wouldn't have any friends or family.
That's probably real true.
So, I mean, it's not like they're eliminated forever, but it's just you have a new little tribe you hang with, kind of like your new workmates or your new, gym mate, the guys you go to the gym with or whatever. It's just a new little crowd you run with, and they are moving in the direction that you want to move in. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Now, do you have a detox you recommend for getting off of sugar on your website?
Yeah, I mean, we have a food plan. It's funny. It's a great question, but everybody always wants the food plan and what do I eat kind of thing, right? And I think that's necessary, and I think it's an important part of it. But in a lot of ways, you need to do the abstinence. You can taper down to some extent, but no matter how low you taper down, when you stop, if you have any habit at all, the withdrawals are going to be similar. Not as bad maybe, but they're going to be similar. So I just say, like, you gotta make time for it. You got to be able to rest. You got to be able to hydrate. You got to be able to do a little bit of exercise, and you're going to sleep a lot. So I don't, like I say, particularly have
any magic detox.
There's no magic pills. Like, I'm researching some amino acid stuff, but it doesn't treat my body well, and it's so volatile. It's like trying to dial in an SSRI, like trying to dial in a psychotropic of some kind. Everybody's so different. You can't just say, okay, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Take 2 amino acid, and it'll help everything. Some people, that affects badly. So it's really, here's the thing. I always like say to folks, if I told you not to eat broccoli for a month, you say, okay, no problem. No steak for a month. Okay, no worries, right? But when I tell you not to eat sugar for a month, or you ask me, somehow there becomes this wrestling match with your psyche and me. You know what I mean? So that should be a clue enough that abstinence, I call it the gift of 90 days, Tom. I say, look, just do it for 90 days. And if the weight loss isn't there, if your skin isn't better, if you don't feel better, you don't get up in the morning better, you're not as anxious. If all these things aren't happening, then just go back to sugar, right? So, so there is a little bit, and I don't call it tough love. I'm far from tough love, but at some level, you just have to stop it for a period of time to see how you feel.
Okay, so what does before we get to what does sugar-free look like?
Sugar-free is the sad part for about a third of folks, Tom, and I don't tell people this till they get into the program a little bit. Some people can't handle flour with it, right?
Okay.
And I was working with an Olympic athlete, right? And she had to quit caffeine first, right? Because they're so tied, the wired together, fired together stuff.
Right.
They were so tied together with sugar in the coffee and sugar in the tea and sugar in the cola. that she had to quit the caffeine first. She struggled for months and months trying to get off sugar and still drink caffeine. So to me, sugar-free looks like whole food. It's just whole food. It's not chemical. I always say anything that's reduced to a white powder, we probably can't handle. And if you can, just handle it in little doses for pleasure or whatever. But for health, one of the things that's exciting about what we're doing now is the science, right? Because this was anecdotal for a long time. I mean, people really were just, we were freaks. We were, fanatics. We were zealots, right? And now there's so much science coming out every day that people want to do this. And sugar-free looks like no sugar, no flour. To me, no sugar, no flour, no caffeine. Some people can, about 10% of people can continue to drink caffeine, and some can do some flours, but some can't.
Okay. So, I mean, keto flu is basically the lack of carbohydrates converted to sugars, correct?
Yep,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's interesting because here's where the trick comes in trying to go sugar-free is there's a lot of hidden sugars.
Absolutely. The names, like I think you said earlier, 75. There's at least 75 names, maybe more. Yeah.
And we don't, I'm here in the land of Coca-Cola and sweet tea. So, Coca-Cola is in my backyard,
Sure.
And, Coke always is working on a way to hide the sugar. They're always working on a new Coke or like Diet Coke. But, let's face it, even a Diet Coke is going to give you that same sugar buzz. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see it like some of the lustings and the big tubs. These guys see this as a 30-year deal. Like this is a societal, like seat belts in cars, condoms in bathrooms, drinking and driving, smoking in public places. These are tectonic societal shifts based on science and research and important things that needed to be changed in society. And just because sugar has been inculturated over centuries, doesn't mean that it may need to shift. And we're in the very early stages of that. And the cigarette folks did not go down peacefully. It's like in the cigarette world, there was people standing in the way, and it took longer. And the same thing with the sugar; they have a business to protect, and I have no qualms with the business of sugar. They're maximizing shareholder value. There's no worries with Coca-Cola, but in the end, these things do change, and the grassroots, and we vote with our pocketbooks, and it's going to happen. It's just going to take time, and we're pioneers. Guys like you and I are pioneers getting the information out there.
Yeah, because here's an interesting. This comes up a lot with my clients and other people, my relatives sometimes. But like, are there honey? Like, so somebody say, well, can I use honey? Or can I use cane sugar? Or can I use all these, natural natural syrup gets brought up a lot. Real maple syrup.
Sure.
It's like, well, that's just for natural sugar. Or fruits. What about fruits?
Right.
I'm one that I know that if I eat bananas, I gain weight quickly.
Wow.
Because I can't convert, I'm not converting that sugar. There's not enough fiber in the banana to convert the sugar.
Nice. So that's a great awareness that you came to. Cool.
I figured it out on my own. Somebody mentioned it to me, because I was putting bananas in my smoothie every day. They're like, sure. Well, and I'm not losing any weight. And they said, are you putting the bananas in there? I'm like, as a matter of fact, I am. Mm-hmm. So I took the banana out, and sure enough, the weight came right off.
Nice. Well, here, I can tell you what's going on with all that. Here's the situation, right? Fructose is the offending molecule, right? And this is the science that's coming out every day. And fructose, the body doesn't know the difference between the fructose in table sugar, the fructose in a banana. They absolutely cannot discern it. A and B, a banana 300 years ago, you couldn't eat because there's so many seeds in it. So all fruits have been hybridized to the point to be sugar bombs. They're fructose bombs, right? And agave syrup is like 90% fructose. Maple syrup, I don't know what the percentage is, but I think it's higher than regular like sugar. And the fructose, there's nothing on the planet that has fructose in it, like old crab apples or whatever. It's poisonous, right? So we're attracted to it for sure. But also, we only got it maybe once a year in very limited supply. And, I asked Dr. Lustig point blank, can fructose be a psychoactive drug? And he said, and he didn't let me finish my statement. He said, absolutely. And there's a lot of science in that, right?
Right.
And evolutionarily and anthropologically, how or why this product or this substance developed, I think it's just to get the seeds disseminated, to be to the animals and us to be attracted to it, eat the product, and then have the seeds disseminated, right? But it was not meant to made into a crystalline form, nor was it meant to be hybridized over 300 years into giant, beautiful oranges that, or peaches or anything that was barely edible sweet-wise before. And honey falls in that category. And I want to tell you something I find very interesting. You talked about detoxes earlier, right? You've obviously heard of the lemonade cleanse. What is the master cleanse, right?
The master cleanse.
So the master cleanse is a combination of, look it up. It's interesting. It's a combination of lemon water and lemon, cayenne pepper, and 100% natural maple syrup. And it's a detox you do for 5 days or whatever. Right? And actually the detox works. I did it 20 years ago. It actually works. But I think that they include the maple syrup in it just to stave off the sugar withdrawals. So you're basically having a water kind of fast with a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of cayenne pepper, right? And it's a very famous detox. You can look it up. I mean, it's all internet, the master cleanse. And again, I think that they included the maple syrup in it just to stave off the sugar withdrawals.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And you're not eating any food for 3 or 5 or 7 days. You can, but so that works. I mean, that's a good thing to do. But like I said, they just added the sugar in there to help it out.
Yeah, I was just looking up honey contains 17 grams of fructose.
There you go. See? Yeah. It's tough. That's it. And your family and your relatives and everybody that says that, can I eat this? Can I eat that? I just say, look, again, the steak thing, no steak, 90 days, no broccoli, 90 days, no fish, 90 days, whatever, just choose one.
Right.
I don't.
Those are easy.
Yeah. Why wouldn't this be easy if they didn't have it?
Right.
If people didn't have an issue, right? Because of the psychoactive nature, that's why it's not easy, right? Because it does affect your dopamine. It does affect your serotonin,
We all love dopamine and serotonin.
We do. We love our dopamine. We really love our dopamine. Everything gives us dopamine.
Right.
Sex, good new food, a sunset, everything. And when we abuse it, like cocaine or whatever, or sugar, it's like that downregulation. The people, that's, I think, going to be one of the new things that come out, like tar and nicotine or whatever. It's going to be, people are going to start to understand that, wow, this beat up my feel goods. I want my regular feel goods back. I want my natural feel goods. I don't want sugar feel goods.
Right.
They want it naturally.
So what about like artificial sugars? Some of the ones that are on the market that are the artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. Same thing. It's like, the body doesn't know the difference. And the sweet taste, moving away from the sweet taste is an important part of your recovery or your change process. Because it only leads you back to the real stuff. And God, I mean, some of that stuff, the science is just horrid, and that could be more dangerous than sugar itself. And like Gloria Swanson, I wouldn't want that stuff in my house, let alone my body. Kind of thing. Definitely wouldn't give it to my children.
And now for a little general housekeeping. If you are enjoying this episode, I'd greatly appreciate it if you would go to whatever app you are listening to this on and rate and review the show and share it with your friends. Thank you very much. Now, if you've been listening to my episodes for the last couple years, you'll know that I key on gut health quite frequently in my episodes because honestly, gut health is king. And pretty much all disease begins in the gut, as Hippocrates said back in 420 BC. So that's a reason I key on gut health quite frequently, because if you're trying to do something simple as just lose weight, your gut health is key. So I have been developing a gut health cheat sheet over the last few months for you to download. And you can obtain this gut health cheat sheet by texting the word gut health, 2 words, gut health, to 773-770-4377. Again, gut health to 773-770-4377. Thank you, and I hope you continue to enjoy this episode and make it a great day. And we touched base a little bit about withdrawing from sugar addiction. It's got to be the same as withdrawing from alcohol or withdrawing from drugs. You have to get sleepy. You must sleep a lot.
You sleep a lot. If you're actually letting your body do what it wants to do.
Right.
And you're not pushing caffeine or whatever.
So do you find a lot of people that are trying to withdraw from sugar, switching to caffeine?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Some people, like I said, have success. I know a doctor guy. He drinks his coffee all day, and he's no sugar though. But yeah, I wouldn't suggest that. I actually think it drives that addiction deeper and it'd be more difficult to get off.
Okay.
And so yeah, no, I wouldn't. When you talk about withdrawals, if you spend 5 minutes in my inbox and 5 minutes on my Facebook Messenger, you would see the pain out there of people trying to do this, that they've got diabetes, they're 200 and 300 pounds overweight, they're losing limbs, going blind, and they still can't get off the sugar. They say, I know I can need to, I know I have to, but they can't. So it's tied to a substance use disorder like you're describing, an alcohol or a drug, is so real that folks are, again, we're in the early stages of this kind of coming out, but it's very, very real. For some folks, for about a third of the population whose body doesn't tolerate it well.
So let me ask you a question then.
Yeah.
So tell me what, in your opinion, what is you've been doing this a while. You've been sugar-free for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And your kids have been sugar-free. But if you go to Aunt Mary's birthday party,
yeah,
do you avoid the cake?
Yeah. I don't, it doesn't, there's no draw at all anymore.
Okay. All right. What about carbohydrates? It's white breads and white flours.
I haven't had either of those in 30 years.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't know, really. I don't think of it as amazing. I just think of it as kind of I don't know. I just stuck to it and it seemed to work. So it works for me anyway. And I think folks are, if they would give it a shot, just give that gift of 90 days and give it to themselves and look in the mirror and jump on the scale and maybe even go to the doctor and get some tests.
Right.
They would see that the big thing now is the continuous glucose monitors, but you can do it very simply for a $10 monitor on Amazon. Just stick your finger
right
when you're about to eat the product, stick it again, wait an hour, stick it again, and then wait 2 hours and stick it in. So you get this little graph,
Right.
And you can watch your sugar, your body, how it's affected, right? And you'll change your. That's why I like some of the biohackers these days. They're getting the information from their own body to tell them what the doctor's been telling them for years.
Yeah, Jimmy Moore from Living La Vida Low Carb.
Yeah,
has got one of those meters in his arm.
Sure.
It's like is it permanent?
No, it's just like a patch, like a like a Fitbit will do it. They have some new stuff, but yeah, no, it's. I think it's only prescription now, but there's no prescription ones in Europe now, and it's coming. Okay. But yeah, I think that type of feedback for folks is really going to be valuable. Really.
Right. Well, I mean, I know from myself, that's what my dad died of metabolic syndrome, which is diabetes and liver and cholesterol and all that wrapped up in one. And when I was diagnosed with the same disease he passed away of, I had to make a decision to change my life. And sugar was one of those things, but I have to admit, though, I still, every once in a while treat myself to something sugary. And I'm going to try the 90 days, like you said, and see how it goes. But it's hard. In my opinion, the hardest part is to be very conscious of the foods you're grabbing off the shelf and eating or drinking to make sure the sugar's not in them.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, let's face it, a lot of everything at the grocery store, unless you're staying in one little area, has got sugar in it.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, this whole last 30 years where been demonizing the fat and the sugar industry has been hiding a little bit of the research or whatever. It's been a sideways turn, I think. We'll look back, it'll be a blip. It won't be a good blip. It's going to take a while to get out of it. But places like Canada and Great Britain that have socialized medicine, they can't sustain it anymore. And we can barely sustain it. But it's like they're treating so many people with metabolic syndrome type things.
Oh,
it's just that we've got to. So we're in the early stage. We're pioneers a little bit. But
I was at the local drugstore a couple of weeks ago. And the two gentlemen in front of me, the one was a cashier and the other gentleman must come in there a lot. But they were both talking about the price of insulin, their insulin going up. And I was biting my tongue saying, hey, I wanted to just say, why don't we fix that problem?
Right.
But instead they just keep putting the insulin in their system. It's like,
it's hard, man. It's really hard.
It's sad.
It's hard to watch the kids, because you got 100% control from 1 to 4 for sure.
Right.
And you can set up a really good pattern in that period of time. And it's hard, get the kid 9, 10, 11 years old who's already had sugar most of his life, getting it away from us is another story, and even adults. But yeah, it's hard, to watch the children.
Yeah, you think about it, and we go from one holiday to the next. We start with New Year's Eve, and then boom, Valentine's Day, boom, Memorial Day weekend, Easter, Memorial Day weekend, the 4th of July, Labor Day, Halloween. Right? Boom, boom, boom. We're full of sugar holidays.
I know, man. I
know. I'm talking to the preaching to the choir here, but
I don't know how it all plays out, man. I'm really fascinated to see what happens in the next decade. How fast, how slow.
Right.
Because there's change coming. You know what I mean? There's change happening.
Are you seeing it? Like you're talking about a summit that you are doing right now.
Oh, yeah. It's like the folks are like the educators from Harvard, Cornell. It's just there's more MDs and PhDs now jumping on understanding this and doing it in their practice. You got a low carb cardiologist, dude. It's there's so many people using these methods in their practice, getting people like they're not cutting their hearts open or they're not doing this. They're actually saying, get off the refined carbohydrates and let's come back. We have one bariatric surgeon who will not do the surgery until you understand the sugar addiction stuff because of the recidivism rate. It's like, I'm not going to cut their stomach open and they're going to go back to eating sugar stuff because that's about all their stomach can handle at that point. It's a small amount. And they usually, if they don't understand this part, then,
it's not going to work.
Yeah, my last resort is to do the thing to save their life. And then I try and educate them.
That's amazing in itself that he's standing up to that.
A real advancement, I believe. Yeah. Real advancement.
Where do you see it playing out with the big food companies, though? How do we, this is their mainstay.
Yeah. One of the things, I think it's Nestle in Switzerland has an entire complex devoted to, moving their products to healthier stuff, right?
Okay.
And they understand this. The process is going to be slow. Again, I don't have any issue with those folks. They evolved with the rest of society, and I think they will evolve. I think they take a lesson, in my opinion, from the tobacco litigation. You remember this site?
Oh, yeah.
In newspapers. 7 guys standing up with their right arm up, swearing that nicotine was not addictive. You will not find the big sugar and the big food producers doing that. No. They are going to play this differently, and they are going to, walk out of this and move their product line to healthier stuff and invest in more healthy products. And they're doing it, slowly. And, but the grassroots always wins, I think. I think educating people up from the grassroots, that's guys like you and I do.
It's a tough road, man, for you and I. And it's a tough road for even the people that have these, or that are addicted to sugar.
Yeah, no, it's hard. There's a lot of pain out there, Tom. I mean, there's a lot of people hurting. And the funny part is they don't know why, because the education's not out there.
Right.
The dive in cigarette consumption was so gigantic because, in essence, the litigation was $1 trillion advertising campaign, right? And so you're looking at like $1 trillion in media out there with all of the newspaper and television. And then the cigarette consumption is continued since that time period. You can graph it, gone down, right?
Right.
And I think that'll happen. I mean, there will be some litigation and that kind of stuff, but more publicity. And who knows what the tipping point will be. But we can't wait because people die fast.
Right.
You got to.
This is a national epidemic.
True. I agree 100%. It's a worldwide epidemic.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, some countries are worse than us. Well, I don't think there's any countries worse than us, but
that's what I was going to say.
Some are pretty bad. Yeah.
Well, some of them are getting worse because, a lot of the countries didn't have fast food for a long time. Exactly. And now all of a sudden McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's are all building places in
Pakistan.
Pakistan, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure.
So let me ask you.
We exported our bad stuff.
Yeah, we did, and it's gonna change. I hope so. I don't think I'll see it. Well, maybe I will.
I think it will. I think it'll go fast, pretty quickly. At some point, I think something's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe litigation. Maybe I don't know.
Look at cigarettes. With cigarettes, they ended up going up to almost $9-10 a pack.
Right. Taxes. Yeah, that's already happening. There's about there's 4 or 5 cities in the United States. Definitely in Great Britain, they already have a sugar tax.
They do? Okay.
Yeah. So that's already happening.
Why didn't New York put I don't know if New York succeeded, but did they succeed on putting a tax on soda?
Yeah, Bloomberg did something. I can't remember. And he got a lot of grief for it.
He got a lot of grief.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, before we close today.
Yeah.
Give me some thoughts on what you'd like to leave the listeners with today as far as your take on this and what you want to tell them. Because this is something that there's a major problem.
Yeah. I would just say to folks, like, you got to be your own person. You have to do it for yourself, right? And, everybody loves their family, but their tribe, they're not doing it maliciously, trying to draw you back and tell you moderation and stuff. They're doing it because 1,000 years ago, if you left the tribe, you might die. They're
Right.
trying to keep you with the group, right? And you got to get a separate group, and you got to make your own decisions about this, and then pull the trigger, man. You got to just do it and test it. I always tell people about the scratch test. Like if they think you got an allergy, they'll put this long strip down your back with scratch it with pollen and honey and whatever, grass, seaweed, and they'll find out if you're allergic to something, right? Well, do the test, man. Just go 30, 60, 90 days without the stuff. And then you make the decision whether or not you want to go back, right? And don't listen to people. I mean, do your research, really. I mean, check it out. Find the experts. Read some of the books you and I have talked about. And make your own decisions about this stuff. But make a decision, because the insidiousness of over time of sugar, my average client, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I don't care anymore. It's like my average client is a woman, and I don't know why, but they are. Maybe they're smarter. I think they are. So a woman who's between 40 and 70, who has gained 2 to 3 pounds a year, been diagnosed with something, now is 30 to 50 pounds or more, a lot more, some overweight, and really can't figure out how they got here. Some of them exercise a lot. Some of them exercise all the time. They eat healthy. Most of them know more about nutrition than I do, for God's sakes. They're really educated, really beautiful, smart women, and they can't figure out how they got here, because of the insidious, slow-working nature. It's not going to destroy your body tomorrow, but over time, it certainly will. So make your own decisions and do it. It's the old Nike thing. Just do it and test your body. Test your body. Don't worry about anybody else giving you grief.
Okay. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Hey, before you go, I have a question I ask all of my guests. If Mike had an hour or two, 30 minutes to relax, what album or artist would you listen to?
That's a great question. I'm kind of a jazz guy, so anything with an alto saxophone in it.
Okay, cool.
And
I love
there's
jazz
so
too
many.
myself.
There's so many of them. Because when I'm listening to lyrics, and I love lyrics, and I like female vocalists, but my mind works a little bit.
Right.
Like I pay a subscription in the car because I turn it on. And there's no commercials. There's no nothing but jazz. And so that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah. You get a lot of jazz out in LA.
Yeah, we do.
There's a lot of. Do they still do that? They used to have a jazz fest out on Catalina Island. Do they still do that?
For sure. Absolutely, man. That's awesome.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
That was back. I was in the Navy. I was in San Diego, but we were stationed in Long Beach for a while, and that's when I went to the Jazz Fest in the 80s at Catalina Island.
Yeah.
Great
Still
jazz
there,
festival.
Still there.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time today. And good luck with the rest of your sugar. It's a sugar summit, right?
Kick Sugar Summit.
Kick Sugar Summit. Okay.
It's a good one. Yeah.
All right.
We'll be around next year, depending on when this airs. So we're not going in. It's our 4th one. So.
Okay, good. Good luck with it. And I appreciate your time today, sir.
All right. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right. Bless you, sir.
Thank you for joining in today with the Rebel Health Coach, Tom Underwood. And be sure to subscribe to the show so you can catch all the episodes. With desire and commitment, you can implement a lifestyle of wellness and fitness. For the support, encouragement, and tools you need to be successful, visit tomunderwood.net.